Good morning. This webinar offers closed captioning. To enable closed captioning, click on the live transcript button on the bottom of your screen and choose your preferred method. Welcome to the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection webinar. Please note any website or email that I mentioned will be posted in the chat box. For those seeking business licensing assistance, you can visit the Small Business Center at City Hall or call 312-74-GO-BIZ. Also, business licenses can be applied for or renewed online at chicagobusinessdirect.org. If you are a part of the BACP Entrepreneur Certificate Program, you can get credit for joining this webinar by sending an email to bacpoutreach@cityofchicago.org. If you want to learn about the program, please visit chicago.gov/businesseducation. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be available at youtube.com/ChicagoBACP. I will post the mentioned information in the chat box. We encourage attendees to ask questions. Please use the chat box to send your questions. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Please note that the views, information, and opinions expressed during this webinar are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection or the City of Chicago. Today's webinar will be Digital Skills for Everyday Tasks, and this is part of our Inside the Industry webinar series presented by JinJa Birkenbeuel, Illinois Google Digital Coach, host of the Honest Field podcast, and NFT and Web3 instructor. JinJa, thank you as always.
Well, thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Happy Friday, everybody. I love seeing all the good mornings coming in after a incredibly challenging week, but I'm so happy to see everybody here to spend time with us for the next hour or so. Just this one small hour. You could be anywhere in the world. I always like to say this. There's a billion places you could be because everything is online and you have all your social media channels probably up and running and you're having conversations on different environments, but you decided to come here this morning to learn, and I'm grateful that you're here. And so on behalf of the Google Digital Coaches, thank you for joining this class this morning, Digital Skills for Everyday Tasks on Friday. And again, my name is JinJa Birkenbeuel, and I'm really happy to introduce Digital Skills for Everyday Tasks. I'm also the CEO of Birk Creative. I think Geraldine mentioned it earlier, but just so you know what that is, it's a visual identity and multi-channel brand strategy company, and we help businesses of all sizes get customers and attention. As Geraldine mentioned, I'm also the founder of the Honest Field Guide podcast. I'd love for you to check out the Honest Field Guide podcast. Just type in Google Honest Field Guide podcast and you will find all the amazing episodes. I just recently interviewed Lisa Beasley. She's a comedian and actor in Chicago. Really great conversation. And I am also the founder of a new startup called Journey of Gratitude, which celebrates businesses of all sizes with a high focus on women. And I focus on research and helping people understand how to jump into the Web 2 space and then enter the Web 3 space, and hopefully create platforms like NFTs and things like that. I want to mention that Grow with Google helps people grow their skills, careers, and businesses by offering free digital training and tools, which is what we're doing today. Today, we're going to really examine how Google applications can help you manage your professional and everyday lives, no matter where you are. I want to encourage you again to use the chat feature. Please say hello, introduce yourself if you feel comfortable with that. Letting people know how they can best reach you, whether that's LinkedIn, Instagram, email, a newsletter sign up, a specific section on your website where you want someone to buy something. I also want to make a special shout out to any writers that are in the house. Please show yourself. Everyone needs a great writer. So if you are a writer or a content strategist, please put your name in the chat. This is a really good time for you to be alive, working, and making a lot of money. And I think there is a way to turn on closed captioning. Geraldine might have mentioned that. So if you want to turn this off because you're at work, I think there's a way to do that. It says closed captioning someplace. Also, I want to mention that I have a survey that I would really love for people to take. We're starting to get more data to understand how these classes and how this information is working for you. So please take the survey midway or at the end of this class. This is a hands-on class. This is very casual. This is not a super corporate experience. So I want you to feel comfortable to ask any questions you'd like. This is a totally safe space. There's no wrong question. There's no wrong answer. There's so many different options for things. So please put your questions in the chat, and I will do my best to take a look occasionally to see if there's anything really pressing that I can help. Otherwise, I will be waiting until the end of the class to give more information or to help answer questions. And I will share my email as well. Let me just do that right now. You can reach me at jbirkenbuellgoogle.com if you have something really specific that you need some help with. Also, I want to mention I did deliver some information to the BACP yesterday, and there's 4 documents that I attached to an email, so hopefully you'll get that at the end of the webinar. But one of them includes a Google certificate program information sheet, and I want you to take a look at that. It's really for people that are 16 and up. You take some classes over a certain amount of time and you become certified with Google, specific Google training, which means that you're eligible to apply through a huge network of corporations and companies that take these certificates, and they hire people from these certificates. So I do encourage you to take a look at that. No time like the present to keep learning new things. So thanks for that, taking that chance. So I also want to mention, if you want to share a story about today's workshop, please tag Burke Creative on Instagram. And also you can tag JinJa Birkenbeuel on LinkedIn. Those are my 2 primary channels for communications. And if you want to also tag Digital Coaches Program on Instagram, that's really a great way that we can reshare your story. In early August, I'm probably going to be hosting my first in-person workshop celebration. It's going to be celebrating the 5-year anniversary of the Google Digital Coaches Program, which I'm really excited about. And I will be making announcements soon. If you want to stay in touch with me related to this upcoming event, I'm not sure exactly where it's going to be. I don't have the exact date yet, but I know that it's coming, and I will be including and inviting people that helped me launch the program in 2017. I did include the link to my email address in the chat, so please, not my email address, my newsletter sign up, so please sign up for that, and I'll let you know what's going on in terms of that workshop. But I also share branding tips and things like that. So before I go into the workshop, I really do have to take a few minutes to celebrate the tremendous partnership of the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection division of the City of Chicago. I am celebrating my 5th year anniversary as the now Illinois Google Digital Coach. My professional success for Google was really made possible by a very focused and impact-driven collaboration between the Chicago Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, me as the president of Burke Creative, and definitely with Google. I was able to launch and, most importantly, scale the reach to the business community of Google Digital Coaches starting way back in 2017, right? Because of the commitment and participation of this organization, BACP. Small business owners have been powered and empowered by the City of Chicago because of the BACP, and I was really grateful that their partnership was approved and we were able to really scale this work here in Chicago. I really love doing this work. Back in 2017, nobody really understood Google. Nobody knew what to do. This is really before small business owners understood that the tools available to them are the same ones that have been available for a long time to really large, giant brands. But back in the day in 2017, all these amazing entrepreneurs and small business owners that decided to take a chance, that were not afraid, and they were curious and determined, they showed up because they wanted to know how Google could help them learn, establish their businesses online, and also make money. So through all of my in-person work at City Hall, every participant that came to my workshops at City Hall and implemented these digital strategies and ideas, they've established their businesses, they've launched their brands, they've started using social media, they've created websites. A couple of women that I brought in to open up my classes and speak discovered that they were amazing public speakers, and they've completely been able to change their trajectory of the work that they've been doing since 2017. Some businesses even started learning how to buy ads. They understood how to write ads. Many people got to come to the Chicago Google office. I brought them in through Google Digital Coaches, but most importantly, the mindsets of the businesses that actually participated changed because of the work that we did together, backed and powered by the Business Affairs and Consumer Protection Division. So later this year, I'm actually going to be sharing some stories from entrepreneurs across the city. And I would love to hear more stories from anyone that was participating in 2017 to understand how the work that we did has helped power up your business or given you measurable results. And I want to give a couple of examples. There's one business, Lori Parrott. She has a company called Cakewalk Chicago. She came to the BACP and other workshops that I held across the city in 2018. She established a free Google business profile, which I'll talk a little bit about today. And now she's got 130 plus reviews on her business listing, which is driving sales. And this is what kept her thriving during the pandemic, all because of a free Google business profile. I also was able to tap the founder of Yogolandia, Eve Rodriguez Montoya. At the time, she came to speak for me at the Little Village Chamber of Commerce, which led to a video feature on Google My Business. And then also I was able to interview Eve personally for the launch of Google's Thrive magazine, which is really amazing. So I just really want to just take that few minutes just to say thank you for your extraordinary partnership, BACP, your commitment and your validation of all the small businesses in Chicago. And I also want to shout out specifically Geraldine Catino, who is always my ride or die, always on all the workshops. Elisa Slenzinska, who is like a queen, an amazing partner, really, really knocked it out of the ballpark back in 2017. I mean, all of us, we were like, what exactly is happening with Google? This sounds exciting. And she was there all the way. Kenya Merritt and Rosa Escareño, who's no longer with BACP. She's moved on to Chicago Park District. These amazing women are the backbone of all the work that's happened with Google Digital Coaches in Chicago. So I couldn't have done this without you. Google could not have done this without you. So thank you very much. And I hope I didn't lose people when I was talking about this, because I have to mention this because it's really made a huge difference. So 5 years. Congratulations. I wish I could put a little chair in the background. Okay, all right, let's get started. I mean, I didn't take too much time doing that, but it was really important that I say that. So everybody, please give a round of applause in your head to the BACP for all the work they're doing for small businesses and entrepreneurs in Chicago. Okay, all right, let's go. Let's see if I can get this back to where let's see, is it moving? Okay, now we got it, okay. All right, let's see here. All right, let's get going here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lauren, for calling this pioneer, calling me a pioneer. I appreciate that. All right, let's get real. Let's get down to this class right now. So everyone right now, we know that we are all working remotely, which means we're all working from home. I mean, look at me. Like, I'm doing it. I'm doing amazing things from the orange rug that's underneath my feet right now. But I want to keep some tips that help you make it easier to work from home. And maybe you're already doing these things because we've been doing this now for 2 years now, and it's never going to stop. But a couple things that really do make a difference to help you keep yourself grounded. Keeping your routine, okay? If you normally wake up and work out and take a shower, keep doing that. Maintain your regular hours, right? Set a schedule, keep it going. In the very beginning, I was very regimented in the very beginning of the pandemic. And then as time went on, I started loosening up a little bit. And then as time went on again, I started refocusing on what I need to put my energy towards, right? Creating a dedicated workspace was one of the ways that I was able to start getting myself back in motion, working in a pandemic and working remotely. I found a safe space and a quiet space, which is where I am right now, to work from my home. I have a door that I can close, and I know everybody doesn't have some of these options, but see if you can find a little corner of some space that you always dedicate to work. And then when you're not working, leave that space and go somewhere else, right? Just make that the workspace. It really makes a huge difference with your psyche and your emotional response throughout the day. Definitely take lunch breaks. Something that's very important about working remotely, and part of the digital skill set, you have to take breaks, have a sandwich, have a protein bar, something like that. It's really easy to just sit at your desk all the time. Right now, what I'm actually doing, I invested in a standing desk, a remote desk that I can actually move up and I can move down, so it can really help my ergonomic experience, but also keeps me on my feet, so I'm not putting on poundage, right? Because if you keep sitting, it's really bad for your heart. Have the tools that you need to be productive all the time right in your workspace. And again, you have to go back and get that space designed for yourself, but then have all the tools at your disposal. I have my pad right now. I've got my Google Pixel phone. I have my pen. I have my lipstick. I have my pointer. I have all the things I need, to keep myself going. And then also creating a daily to-do list is really critical. I actually have a pad where I keep things on a list all the time. I know some people are very digital and they work digitally and they have things in Google Docs, which is great. They might have things in notes, or they might be using their email to, their email system to, type their to-do list. They maybe even be using their Google Calendar. whatever it takes, keeping a list is important because then you can cross things off and you can even turn pages and go backwards and find out what you missed. That's how I love to know that I'm actually moving forward with what I'm trying to accomplish. And give your coworkers a bit of grace. I think that some people are starting to loosen up on that grace thing, and I like to say, let's not do that. We're still in a pandemic, and there's still many people that are working from home, and they still have children that are not in school, or they haven't found high schools yet. Like me, there's no high school for one of my children. But dogs are barking. There's background noises. There's babies. There's people yelling. There's fights. There's kids. Just roll with it and just keep going and give people grace and try not to judge, because one of the things that you want to think about when it comes to digital skills, especially if you're moving into remote work with other companies, is that everybody's sort of having a lot of challenges in their lives, and you just kind of have to give people some space and relax and realize that everybody has their own world and their own problems and their own situations, and you have to just accept that and just have some compassion and self-awareness and things like that. Again, my last mention I will say is when you are not at work, don't work. So leave that space and walk away. I've gotten really good at that. Has anybody else gotten really good at walking away from work? A room divider. Oh, thank you, Jamie. I never even thought about that. For people that don't have a door. Yes, I love it. If anyone else has any suggestions for strategies on stress management for working remotely, please share in the chat. I would love some more strategies for myself. I would love it. So thank you for sharing that. That's excellent. All right, so I wanted to just give that background. I do have a PDF that I shared that talks a little bit more about things like that, working remotely and how to maintain your energy. But today we're going to focus on 3 digital skills that can make your everyday work life easier, both while you're working remotely and at a traditional office, right? So when you're trying to stay productive at home, it could be even more important to keep track of your to-do list, find ways to collaborate with your team, keep your organization and business partners updated about any progress you're making. And we're going to demonstrate several skills that can help you with these work needs. One example is planning a company summit, or even planning an event like this, right? These skills and applications can apply to a variety of workplace situations that I'm going to talk about. So when you hear the examples I give, don't be distracted by the example. Think about how you can transfer the information to something that you're actually trying to do yourself, right? So these projects can really help boost your productivity right away. And if you're a job seeker, these digital skills that we highlight can really help prepare you to jump into a new kind of work. Every job right now requires technology, information, and digital skills. So what we're talking about today is really part of that journey to get yourself ready for the world of work, whether you're working for yourself or working for others. So what questions do you have for me before I go on? Oh, thank you, Rachel. Working from home looks so disciplined. Wow. Okay. Wow. Only like less than a month. Working from home does take more discipline. It absolutely does, because you don't have the infrastructure around you to keep you on track. You have to keep yourself on track. So, that is the thing. I'm so glad you brought that up. Such an important point. Okay. So in today's lesson, we're going to get you signed into your Google account and accessing Google Drive. So the best thing I could suggest is that you open up a separate window, and that's from this one, and go into Google, sign into your Google account. And if you don't have one, sign up for one. And that way you can probably work as we go through this class. Google Drive, by the way, is what you access when you open your Google account or you open your Google account. It's free. It's a cloud-based tool and allows you to store folders and files. If you've never used the folders and files and you do have a Gmail account, you already have a Google Drive. Maybe you just haven't accessed it yet. Right? So I'm going to show you how to open some really useful Google applications, and we're going to focus specifically on planning and managing your work using Sheets, Docs, and Slides. So if you're familiar with Excel, you'll understand Sheets. It's slightly different. If you're familiar with Microsoft Word, you'll understand Google Docs because they're cross-platform compatible. And if you're used to PowerPoint, you'll understand Google Slides a little bit better, right? So Google Slides actually is more beautiful and more intuitive than PowerPoint, and the templates are more gorgeous, and I'll show you a little bit of that later in the class. So the skills today that we're going to cover today, though, will apply to a variety of work situations. And to complete this lesson, I'm going to walk you through planning a virtual event step by step and give you some hints and tips that'll make things a little bit easier. So that's what we're going to be doing. Okay. So many of you joining might already have an event you're planning right now. Possibly, maybe you're hosting a digital video conference through Google Meet, which is what I normally am running on. This is actually Zoom. But you might be planning a celebration event at work for later in the year. So today we're going to practice these tools in the context of planning an event. But you can apply these skills to any situation in your workplace or personal life. For example, you can use a sheet to create a budget or job search plan. You can use Google Docs to create a resume or cover letter, design a flyer, or brainstorm for a big project. I can let you know that I use Google Docs all the time to help my three sons build their resume. They have beautiful templates for resumes. You don't have to start from scratch. So that's a really good tip to recommend if you have a teenager. So first we're going to need to access these applications though. So I want you to take the time to sign into your Google account now. It's kind of like unlocking the door to your home, or I like to say unlocking the keys to the ecosystem of Google. Once you have a Gmail account, you can access virtually every single tool that Google offers, every single free tool that Google offers when you have a Gmail account, right? So if you open a new tab in the browser window and go to google.com, and if you're not signed in, you can just click sign in and enter your new username and then click next. That's how you do it. It's very simple. Okay, so many of you might be planning something right now. So I think I already went over this slide, didn't I? Oh no, I didn't go over this slide yet. So we're going to practice these tools in the context of planning an event. And like I said, you can apply these digital skills to many situations. Again, I want to say go to accounts.google.com/sign up. And I'll put this in the chat because I don't know if everybody has a Google account at this point. There's some people that don't. I actually saw a Netscape email the other day. I was like, what? I was shocked. But if you don't have an account, go to accounts.google.com and you can hit sign up here. All right. If your business or employer uses a Google Workspace, you may have an email address that doesn't look like a Gmail address, but it's still a Google account. If you're not sure if your email is a Google account, you want to check with your team at work. By the way, Google Gmail is free. Google accounts are totally free. You can have as many as you'd like. I think I have 15 of my own. Okay. So that's something important to think about. Okay. So this is the process to actually sign in. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about what you can do with your Google account. So this graphic on the slide shows Google application icons. It includes Sheets, Docs, Photos, Chrome, and Gmail. If you're really familiar with Google, you've probably seen a lot more tools than just this. But signing into your Google account allows you to access all of the products you're going to learn about today and more. You only have to sign in once to access Sheets, Docs, Slides, Photos, Forms, Gmail, and all kinds of other applications. How many of you have ever used Google Forms? It's actually amazing. I love it much better than, I think it's called SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey costs a lot of money, but you can actually do surveys with Google Forms. Just a really great tip. You should try it sometime. It doesn't cost any money. It's totally free. So after you've signed in your Google account, you can use the apps menu to move around between applications. I also want to mention that if you're on your desktop or if you're on your mobile, you're going to have a completely different experience. And also you might have a different experience from desktop to desktop because some people have new features added to their workspaces and other people have older features because things are always changing. There's always testing going on. Okay, so at the right top of the screen, you want to select the Google Apps icon, which is circled here. And from here, you can access all the Google applications that come with the account. There's probably a lot you are not familiar with or you haven't seen. If anybody here has Google Workspace, the paid one, you'll have more solutions and tools than other people that have the free account. I know that I have Google Workspace and I pay for that because I have employees. You can get to Gmail, Sheets, and Slides right from here, and your most recently used apps will always appear first. You can also access the Google Drive, which is where all the things will be stored that you're using on the Google ecosystem. If you're using Docs, it'll automatically go to your Google Drive that's associated with that Gmail account that you have. Let's take a quick look at Google Drive first though. So Google Drive allows you to store, access, and share files like documents, spreadsheets, presentations, forms, photos, videos, audio files, you name it. You can put everything in your Google Drive. Instead of it being stored on your computer, it allows you to store your things in what's called the cloud. And if you want to find out more about Google Cloud or if you want to find out more about the cloud environment in general, like what is cloud? Why do I keep hearing about this? I highly suggest you go to Google and type in what is cloud? What does cloud mean? And you should get some information about that environment. So Google Drive allows you to store everything in one single place, right? This cloud is completely safe. It's a private place on the internet where you can store your documents and your files. After you save something on Google Drive, you can access it from any computer, smartphone, or tablet with internet access. Files that are stored on Google Drive will never get lost, even if your computer crashes. I use it all the time for my business. The files you create with Google Apps are automatically saved. You never have to remember to click save. And some applications actually save the versions that you've created. So if you need to go back to version 1 versus version 10, you can do that in some of the applications. If you've never created anything with Google Apps before, your Google Drive will be empty. But once you start creating files, they'll automatically be stored in that Google Drive space that's connected to that Gmail account. So, if you have a computer or tablet, I would highly suggest you follow along and see how this works and just get used to this. Right now, Google and other companies like Google are really looking for people that have basic digital skills like this. Knowing how to navigate virtual cloud environments like this is really important, as an important skill to have, right? All right, so I want to dive into some example projects. The first project we're going to create today is what's called a to-do list, my favorite. I use paper, but I also use Google Docs. And I also use Sheets, right? And the to-do list sheet will track tasks for our big virtual event, the one I mentioned earlier. So feel free to work along with me. The first step is going to be planning for any major event, or just getting on top of any work, is to really build a list of everything that needs to get done, whether it's for you or whether it's by somebody else. So when you create a new blank sheet for this work, Google Drive offers a library of time-saving templates, right? Anytime I don't have to think, when it comes to things like this, I am so happy because I've saved time. So the template provides basic information and formatting and keeps you from having to start from scratch every single time you create a sheet or a project. So Google Sheets has a template that will fit our to-do list really nicely. It's actually already called to-do list. So to work on this list, you want to select new, and you want to then open the menu, right? Then you want to select the arrow next to Google Sheets. And from a template, this opens the template gallery with all the cool things. Lots of templates for work and for home. Then you want to circle the to-do list, right? This is what you will use right now for this exercise. If you have your desktop open right now, I highly recommend you do this, because sometimes it's hard to listen and watch and figure this out and then go back later and you're saying, what did JinJa say exactly? What did she tell me to do, right? All right, so you want to open a to-do list. Then you want to click on the title to give your sheet a new name, like yard sale to-do list, right? That's what you want to do. Or a similar name that describes the event project that you're planning. And this becomes a file name. And this is the way you're going to find the file on your Google Drive. And as soon as you open the sheet, it's saved automatically to Google Drive right away. Like I said, everything that you do, any work that you do in the sheet is saved automatically. You never, ever, ever, ever have to click save. Okay, so this template may look a little different from a blank spreadsheet, but it still has all the same elements. The image on the slide shows a to-do list with a column that's called tasks, and there's 3 tasks that are listed. So sheets contain many rectangles called cells, and some of you might say, oh my gosh, I already know this, but it's slightly different in Google. It's Google Sheets. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of a refresher. Cells are organized into rows and columns, right? And every cell has a name based on its column and row. For example, this cell, which is called A1 because it is column A in row 1. And you can navigate the sheet by clicking in different cells, or you can use the arrow keys or the keyboard to move around the grid, right? You can add text, formatting formulas, and you can add functions to cells. But because you're using this template designed for a to-do list, there's a lot of formatting that's already included. There's columns for check marks to indicate if a task is complete, and for the deadlines for the task, and there's a space for the description of the task itself. I love using templates. If anybody uses templates instead of creating things from scratch, please raise your hand. So to use the template, replace the task with things that you need to do for your event, project, or work, and make something up right now just to kind of go along with me, right? Feel free to copy what you see on the screen if that makes sense for you. So notice when you click into a sheet cell when typing, you're going to replace the text that was already there. So if you're experimenting, type 2 or 3 tasks that are related to an event that you might plan. Then you want to add a few dates. And if you're practicing along, they really, again, don't have to be real. They don't have to be real. When you start building this project on your own team, verify that you have the correct dates and the deadlines are reasonable, things like that. If you have hard deadlines, like an already scheduled event, make sure to include those as well. And I really love to talk about the idea that when you're building these things out, especially if it's for more than one person, if you have a team, as part of a digital skill set, always check with your team to make sure that what you're thinking is reasonable for you is also reasonable for them. Because sometimes it's not, your idea of fast is their idea of slow and vice versa. Okay. So let's say you want to collaborate with several people and you want to divide up the responsibilities to get your event going. You can add another column titled owner and write the name in each row for each task. And to do this, you want to click column C as shown here. Then you want to open the insert menu. And then you want to click columns and one column right. And then your new column D will appear, right? And then you want to click inside D1 and type a title to give the column a heading like owner. And owner is, the owner of that particular task, right? You want to add a few names in the rows below. And adding a column for task owners turns this into a team to-do list, right? So I want to talk a little bit now about changing the way your sheet looks by changing colors, fonts, and other style aspects of your sheet. So hopefully you were able to pick all that up, but this is really useful. I had a really large project that went on for about 18 months in the pandemic, and I had 15 people on the team, and I created one single spreadsheet that was used for the entire team to understand deliverables that were expected, who was responsible for what the deadlines were, where we were in the process, what particular vendors needed to be talked to, all the different roles of the members on the team and things like that. It was a really powerful document that I never, ever, ever could have managed client expectations had we not had a very robust Google Sheet put together for the team and for the project. And it went really, really well, the whole entire process. Highly recommend spreadsheets. I actually love spreadsheets. If you're obsessed with spreadsheets like I am, would you please show yourself and say, I am also obsessed with spreadsheets, because I want to know that I'm not alone in this. I don't want to call it, I was going to say like a mental health issue to be obsessed with spreadsheets, because it's not. Okay, it's actually a really good productivity tool. All right, so you can change the format of this template to reflect your own style for something, that's related to your event, right? So if it's your favorite sports team, like the Chicago Blackhawks or something, you can change it to red, instead of green, or if you can change it to blue. We don't want to use green. I think that's Green Bay Packers. Hi, Wisconsin person. If it's a meeting at work, you can change it to your brand colors, right? So to change the colors in a sheet, what you want to do is you want to click on a cell or group of cells and then click the fill color icon. Then a drop-down list is gonna open, right? And you want to choose the color from the drop-down list. And there's so many amazing colors. And additionally, you can also adjust the font size, the style, or color by selecting a group of cells, or and select with new font settings. So another tip is on a Google Sheet, if you click that little box in the upper left-hand corner of the sheet, and if you have this open, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you click that cell, it'll select the entire sheet, and you can change all the fonts and all the sizes all in one fell swoop. So if you have formatting and specific lines, you'll have to then go back and change the formatting. But for example, I'm pretty particular about my spreadsheets. If I see a font in like 14 point or 12 point or 9 or 8, and I see something in italic and something in bold, and there's no like rhyme or reason or process around this, I'm going to change everything all at once. I'm going to make it look beautiful the way that I want it to look. And so that's a really quick way to do it. So now you have a sheet with some tasks and owners, and maybe you have used some formatting to make your to-do list easier to read. So I want to think again about how else you can apply this application to everyday tasks. So you can do this for carpooling schedules, family appointments, shopping lists. You can do these things for anything. I gave you an example of how I use it for work. If you have examples for how you use a spreadsheet that are different and novel and innovative, and you have some tips on how other people can use them to be more productive, please share the strategy in the chat. I know I keep saying that, and here's why I keep telling you about this chat situation. So we are working remotely right now, and you can work anywhere in the world. You can now network anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in person network, right? So what does that mean? That means taking advantage of situations like we're in right now, opportunities, I should say, where you can have conversations with people in a virtual chat environment and let people know, this is my name, this is what I do for a living, these are the things I'm trying to accomplish, this is my goal. Does anybody have an answer to a problem I'm having? Here's my question, how can you help me? I'm looking for this type of job. I mean, really, there's no such thing as bragging in this environment anymore. You really have to let people know what you're doing. And so that's why I keep encouraging you to use the chat. So please understand it's a safe space. And I do want tips on how to be innovative on spreadsheets because I love them. Okay, so you can find other templates in the template gallery and help you start pretty much any type of project that you might need, right? So go check it out and see what you can do there because I love this kind of work. All right, so you can also change the format of this template to reflect your own style or something about your event. And I actually think I went over this already and I forgot to skip ahead to the right place. I apologize for that. All right, I think I'm in the right place now. So your sheet is automatically saved in the Google Drive, like I said, and you should still be able to open another tab in your Chrome browser. And you want to click that browser tab icon to access the application. And then here it is. So this image should show you how a user's Google Drive containing the sample to-do list looks inside the drive. I might need to actually go back. If you need me to go back, let me know. If you need me to go back. Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know what you're laughing at, Jamie. Probably because I love spreadsheets. Here's one of my questions. Can you do sign-up sheets like other apps like Sign Up Genius? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. Lauren, on that question. Can you let me know what you're asking? I actually, now that I think I do know what you're asking about Sign Up Genius. You cannot do that in a spreadsheet. No, that's a third-party app. Connor, where would you like me to go back? I'm happy to go back. Let me know where you'd like me to go back, Connor. So I'm going to go forward until you tell me how I should go back. Okay? How did you get to where we are? Right here? Okay, so let me go back to that real quick. Hold on a second. So I already went over the colors, right? I went through the color process. So you're not asking about the colors. You're probably asking about this right here, correct? So, or maybe you're actually asking about this. Okay. Oh, okay. So right here. So from here, when you finish your sheet, it's going to automatically save to the Google Drive. It's automatic. You don't have to do anything, right? It, like, once you actually make the sheet and you've logged into when you've logged into your Gmail account and you open up a Google Sheet and you start filling it in, it's going to automatically go back and save to the drive that's connected to that Gmail account, and it's already in there. And so I think earlier in the presentation, I showed you where you can find the Google Drive. And if you're on your desktop, in the upper right-hand corner, there's a bunch of little gray boxes that you can click, and then it'll open a new window that'll show you all the different applications that are connected to your Gmail account. And you should see an icon that says Google Drive. And I can go back later in the presentation to show you what that icon looks like. I hope that was helpful. But this actually shows you, where it saves in the actual drive. So that's where it goes. It goes from here, and then it just is like a magical process. You don't actually have to move it. I hope that was helpful because I know it's a little bit confusing if you've never used Google Drive in the cloud before. Okay, I'm going to move on. I hope that helped answer, and I can go back to it later. Okay, great, Connor, thanks. I want to make sure that you understood that because it does get confusing. All right, so creating a meeting agenda with Google Docs. So remember the list of owners that we created in our to-do list? So imagine you're going to ask all those people to attend a virtual meeting and help you plan this event. So one way to have a useful and productive meeting is to keep notes during your discussion, and that's using Google Docs, where you can create and share meeting notes and even collaborate in the same document from anywhere at the same time. So just like we did with the sheet, we're going to start off with the template to help with some overall design and basic elements. So you want to select New, then Docs from a template, which is what we did before. And just as you saw as sheets, there's a ton of document templates from which to choose. I mentioned to you there's amazing resumes in there. So you want to open the meeting notes template that you want to use, and hopefully you're following along. And here's a fun tip, by the way, for those of you that are already signed into your account. So if you want to open a blank document right away from your Chrome browser, just type in docs.new into the address bar. Did you know that tip? I'm going to share it right here. Just type in docs.new and you can get a blank document right away. I didn't even know you could do that. Like, there's just so much you can do. All right. So just like we did with the sheet, this is the template folder, and you can see all the beautiful templates that are in here in the docs. And this is what you'll see when you open up the Google Docs environment. And take a screenshot of this because it's really amazing. Okay, so once again, your template opens in a new tab and it automatically saves your Google Drive. So all these templates for this style of document have the same basic information: meeting date, list of attendees, agenda, notes, action items, and items for the next meeting. So I want you to click the placeholder text under the last meeting and click and then type something there like a reminder about the task that's in progress. And what you'll see right now is you'll see Laura Ipsum Delore. If you're wondering what that is, that's just fake copy to help give you an idea of where you should start typing. It's some kind of like gibberish. It means nothing. It's not even real words, right? But this is really helpful because everything's designed beautifully. The headings are beautiful already. They're fat and bold. There's things that are in italics. There's things that are in regular. There's bulleted lists. There's numbered lists. I mean, these are things that when you're a designer or you're a marketing person, you kind of already know how to do from scratch, but you really don't need to do things like that. Is it really Latin? I don't know if it is. Okay, thanks for correcting me, Miss Blair. So similar to the formatting you just completed on Google Sheets, you can format this document however you want. You can select the text. You can change the font styles, colors, boldness, things like that. And you can also change the color from the menu, just like we showed before in Sheets. You can change team meeting from red to blue, to green, to black, to gray, whatever you'd like, using that icon that you see, that circle at the top. Okay? All right, additionally, you can add comments to the document to make notes about things without changing the text. So for example, you might want to quickly add a comment about what to add to the meeting agenda, but actually write the agenda later. You might want to add a reminder to ask your coworker a question during the meeting, right? So to leave a comment, you want to select the text in the document, and you can select one word, a sentence, you can select a character, whatever you want to select. Then you want to click the plus button on the side of the page, or you want to open the insert menu and choose comment. And in that box, you want to type the comment. And so the reason why this information is important is when you are working virtually, when you're working across, global spaces, or even if you're working, on something with a friend that's in another state and you're trying to come up with, whatever you're trying to come up with, in a document, like a plan or a strategy, or let's have a conversation around why we're even going to have this presentation in the first place that we're going to make when we go to our meeting next week. You want to have a way to reach out to the people that you're collaborating with. And so these are the processes that you put in place to have a virtual cloud-based collaboration. You don't have to pick up a phone and talk to someone. You don't have to text someone. You don't have to chat with someone. You don't have to communicate on social. You basically create a document and you tag this person in the document, and you can have a conversation ongoing anytime you want from wherever you are, as long as you have an internet, as long as you have internet access. So it really is a critical digital skill that you have to know how to do as you're working in this new world. It's a really critical space. I know it's a little confusing, but it's very important to understand the concept of collaborative work in real time. So here's a trick though that makes collaboration much easier. If you add a comment for someone else, you want to type the plus sign and then their email address, and that works as well. So Google Docs will then send an email to that person with your comment and a link to the document in the email. So if you want your coworker, for example, to fill in the agenda before a meeting, you can add a comment, you can add the plus sign and their email address. And if you want, you can choose to assign the comment to your teammates so that when they see it, it becomes an action item for them. When you assign a comment to the person, they will be responsible for resolving it. So they'll have the option to resolve comment, and then it goes away. So once you decide whether or not to assign the comment, you want to select comment to add it to the document. And that's how it works when you assign people to work on specific documents in the cloud environment. And this is much easier than if you have a document like a Microsoft Word document that you're working on your own computer, on your own desktop. You make changes, you take it, you take the document, you attach it to an email, then you send the email to your friend, and your friend looks at the document, makes a change, sends the email back to you, and then maybe you miss that email. The next thing you know, you're like, did you see my email? I put an attachment in there, I made changes, and the person says, oh, I made the changes, did you get it? And then you start losing track of what is the most current document that you're actually working on. This happens all the time. And so that's one of the beauties of working in a cloud-based environment with things like that, is you can always keep track of, the most recent version, and you can always backtrack to older versions. So if your teammates don't have access to the document yet, Google will prompt you to choose what kind of access they should have. So I want to talk a little bit about the different types of ways you can have access to a digital file in Google Workspace. So one of the most useful features of Google Docs, I can try to go back to it. I mean, it might actually take some practice for you to do it as well. You might have to keep practicing. All right. So one of the most useful features of Google Docs and many of Google's other apps is the ability to collaborate in the same document at the same time. In the past, sharing documents meant saving a version, as I mentioned earlier, and emailing it to someone on your team. You need to download it, make changes, things like that, resave it, download it again, resave it. It's just like incredibly crazy and really inefficient. So with Google Docs, you're able to collaborate on projects again with anyone, anywhere at the same time just by making these changes, right? So Google Docs will save all the changes you make because there's only one version of the document and you never need to worry about working on the wrong one. You can choose which documents you share with which people, and you can control how much access they actually have. By controlling different sharing settings, you can give different members of your team access to the documents that they need and you want them to have. If you add someone to a comment, they will be prompted to give them access to the document if they don't yet have it. Another way to grant access is to share the document with someone directly. And hopefully maybe this actually helps answer your question, Sakina, a little bit. You want to select share in the upper right-hand corner. You want to type that person's email address in the box. If you want to try it out, try using your own email address right now to practice. In fact, if you want to try it out with someone on the chat right now, see if you can grab someone's email address and say, hey, Lauren, Sakina, let's exchange email addresses. And then you can actually start building a document right now. You can do this as we speak during this class at this moment, right? So next you can choose what the person can do with your project. You can give editing access, which allows a person to edit the document directly. If someone is adding information to an invitation, for example, they'll need editing access. You can also provide one of your users the ability to comment only, which means that the person can't edit your document, but they can actually just make comments, right? For example, you might want a fellow event planner to review the information in the invite and add comments about anything that's missing or inaccurate. And you have to decide, what you want to give someone in a particular document, right? I mean, some people, you give all full editing access and people can make changes however they want. You can also indicate view, right? So maybe you only want someone to look at it, right? You only want them to see the document. You don't want them to comment on the document. You don't want them to make any editing changes, but maybe they're involved with planning the event and you just want to keep them informed, something like that. Another way to think about this is there are documents that I have in the cloud that I have available for the public to view only, and they can't actually edit my original source document. And I think I have several documents like that out there, for example. There's other documents that I do not have available to the public that have editing access, and those are not available for anyone to have unless they have actually direct link to my document. So the box at the bottom, you might notice, there's a box that's labeled Notify People. So when you share a document sheet or presentation with someone, they're going to receive an email about it. If you do not want to send an email to somebody, you want to uncheck this box. If you're practicing, see what happens. Leave the box checked, leave it unchecked, see whatever makes sense for you. Sometimes I don't notify people because if I'm making lots of changes, I don't want people to get spammed in their email box with notices, change, because you can get a lot of emails related to this, which might be helpful for you depending on what the scope of your project is, right? So next you can add a note about the document and then you can click send. The one thing I will say is when you put a note in the note section, when you're sharing your documents, that note is not saved in a way that you can find. At least I haven't figured out how to do it. So if you have a note that you're putting in there, you want to copy the content you put in the note and paste it into a separate document so that you can remember what notes you put in the box that when you start sharing the document. I've had situations in the past where I've actually put very long, detailed notes to give people instructions on what they're supposed to do on a document, and I forgot what I wrote and I didn't copy the contents of that note to put it somewhere else. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I actually tell someone to do? So just make sure you know that's something that actually disappears, okay? So anyway, I wanted to make sure that you understood that process. So hopefully, Sakina, that was helpful for you to understand how to collaborate, because this process to collaborate is very similar across all the different products that are available in this presentation, right? Which also, even slides, sheets, docs, it's very, very similar. Okay, so here's another cool part. So when you store files in your drive, okay, you can give access to different files to different people, which is very cool. So maybe you want everyone who's helping you with planning to see the meeting agenda. And this is the path I'm showing you on the left side of the screen. But maybe you also have a budget file and you only want one person to have access to your budget file. And that's the path on the right side of the screen. So more good news is that you can give different people different levels of access to the file. You can give people access to only comment on the file, which we talked about earlier. And maybe you just want to give people access to view, and this is where you can do it. You can also give people access to a complete folder and store a group of files in the folder, which means that in that situation, everyone who has access to the folder will have access to all the files within the folder. And then you can give access to people outside of your owner's list. And this makes it perfect for sharing information with maybe a vendor you hired to provide a service, or a party guest requesting details about an event, something like that, right? So think about how you can use Drive effectively and efficiently for your teams, right? I want to share a link with you because some of this gets a little tricky if you've never, ever, ever used any productivity tools like this in your whole entire life. I want you to go to this link. More information can be found about sharing files here. And it's right in the chat, just put in the chat. And also, I want to share another link. If you are a Google Workspace administrator, you want more information on how to limit sharing files with people, I want you to go to this link. And this is a little bit different than an individual person. So there's some tricks, strategies, and some tricky things about this that are important to learn. What you don't want to have happen is you share files and give someone editing access that you don't want to give editing access to, and they edit your file, and it just becomes like, oh my goodness, I didn't mean to do that. You were only supposed to view it. I don't want you to make changes. I'm sitting here writing a novel. I'm writing my novel in Google Docs, and I did not mean to give you editing access, and you completely wrecked chapter 1. Things like that. Geraldine, can you help D'Amica see things that are in the chat?
Sure, I'll message her.
Okay, thank you.
Or D'Amica, all you have to do is press on the chat button. It should be at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, and it's actually possible, let's see, because I actually have an option for hosts and panelists, so there might be some things that need to be copied from what I actually posted. So that might be helpful as well. Thanks for calling that out. So did you see the link I just shared, Pamela? Just now? And you know, Geraldine, maybe you can share the links. Okay, I'm not sure why she's not seeing them. Okay, I'm gonna move on. Maybe you could help. Okay. All right, so here's like my most fun thing of all, which are Google Slides. Okay, thank you, Pamela. You see it now? Okay, great. And you know what I'll do, Pamela? I will go back and select some of the other links so that, and I'll put them back in the chat for you, okay? I'll just go ahead and do it. I actually might end up copying all the content that's in here and putting it in the chat, and that actually might be helpful. Let me just do that right now. I'll just go ahead and do that right now, if I can. Let's see.
I got it, JinJa. I've been copying and pasting.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, you move on.
All right, thank you. So, all right, let's go look at Google Slides, because you know what? I love Google Slides, and I'm on Google Slides right now. So Google Slides is great. This is what you're looking at. You're looking at Google Slides. There's beautiful fonts, there's beautiful colors, there's beautiful templates. It's easy to use. It's intuitive. It's simple. It's absolutely gorgeous. And let me just say this. I grew up learning about a competitive presentation platform, and it was very cumbersome for me, and there was nothing beautiful about it, and I didn't know how to design it, and I couldn't figure out how to make things look great. And with Google Slides, I actually know how to make things look beautiful and look great, and it's very easy for me to train employees on Google Slides. It's very simple. Okay, so imagine that you have planned your virtual event, and you have a to-do list, you've collaborated with your team to make an agenda for the event. Next, you might need a way of communicating effectively with a large group of people, like what I'm doing right now. So if you're planning a big summit for your entire organization, or if you're planning, a big giant workshop, you might want to give everyone an update on your progress. Maybe you're pitching new business, right? I do this all the time to a possible investor. You might want to plan out what to say during your presentation, right? You might start off with your agenda and your docs. You might start out with, then you might create a spreadsheet with team members listed to let them know what part of the presentation they will be speaking at, things like that. And then you put the presentation together and boom, you're in business. So for these situations, building a presentation in Google Slides is really beautiful. And even if your event is a small team meeting, using a slide deck helps keep everyone on track, right? On pace and engaged. So I want to take a look at how to use these presentations to share your progress. And I want to start from a blank slide deck, which is really easy. So again, Google Slides though offers beautiful, beautiful templates. They're so gorgeous. So if you are on your desktop right now, please go to Google Slides and take a look at all the beautiful Google templates that you can use for your own presentations. And I hate to make a promise, but I'm going to make a promise. If you use Google Slides and you make a presentation, no one will know that you didn't create it yourself. They're going to just say, wow, what a gorgeous deck, right? I'm telling you, it happens all the time. So as with our other projects, we're going to start off with a template to help with some of the overall design and basic elements. So from drive.google.com, and I'm going to put this in the chat as well. Okay, I'm going to put this link in the chat in case you can't figure out where the gray boxes are. All right, I want to select new, and I want you to select from a template, And this opens the Google Slides template gallery. And you can find options for all kinds of things in presentations. Like you can have a template for presenting your research at a professional conference. You can deliver a sales pitch. You can lead a workshop, which is what I'm doing right now. I mean, they're just really beautiful. There's pictures on some of these already included. They won't make sense for what you're probably trying to build, but you can just use them and experiment on how to make pictures bigger, smaller, how to insert pictures, how to take them away, how to delete them, things like that. So you want to open the template you want to use. And we're going to start with a status report template and build an example project for updating an organization for all the work you've gotten done from home. Okay, so let's try that. All right, so once again, your template opens in a new tab and automatically saves to your Google Drive. And as you can see, this template has built-in categories already ready to go, designed to update a stakeholder on deadlines maybe, or road bumps, your team's accomplishments, things like that. So different templates include different categories. So there's different slide layouts, there's different colors, there's different designs. So you can start customizing your slide by creating a title slide. And again, the content is already in here, so you just type right over it. No need to spend so much time figuring out sizes, colors, bold, weights, things like that. Unless you're a professional designer and you love doing that kind of thing, why waste time? So every template includes pre-designed layouts, right? So layouts include pre-arranged text boxes and formatting, and slides make suggestions for how to use each layout. You can select different layouts to present different information, like a main point, important data, or a caption. And by the way, this content in Google Slides is completely cross-platform compatible with Microsoft PowerPoint. The only things that might change would be the fonts. So for example, there are situations for me where I build something in Google Slides and then I have to share it with a client who might be using another program. So I either save it as a PDF or I save it as a PPTX file, and that way it's easily transferable to the person that's receiving my document, right? Or if I don't have to do that, I'll just give them access to my Google slide by collaborating, and that works as well. So you want to add a new slide, which shows you, the new button. You want to select a new layout that helps you present the information you need to share with your team or business partners. And for this example, we're going to choose the big number layout, which I love. I love the big number layout. That's like my favorite. Did you see that? The big number layout. It's a lot of fun to work with that one. Okay, so as you build out your presentation, you may want to include non-photo visual images. So adding illustrations and videos helps keep your presentation interesting and helps grab your audience attention. You might want to use photos to introduce your team to an audience, for example. You can link a chart or graph from a Google Sheet to show progress or explain a budget. To add elements like this, you want to access the Insert menu, right, which is right here, Insert. You want to choose the type of visual elements you want to include. You want to add a visual like a photo or video directly from your Google Drive. Or you can search the web to find an image that suits your presentation. Now, I've used this before, the search the web feature, and personally, as a visual person, I usually like to find my own images as long as they're royalty free and there's no, licensing I have to get. But there are some really interesting ones that come through this process right here, and you can try it. Again, you want to make sure you have the right to use an image. When you search for an image directly from the Slides application, the images returned in your search are automatically free to use, which is why I'm saying for me, some of the images are not my favorite because they're free. And a lot of times when it's free, that means a lot of people are using it, which means it's not going to be original or special or unique, but that's my own personal opinion. So that's just how I like to work, things like that. So if I want to use the special custom image, I try to find a royalty-free stock photo house that I can buy an image for like $5, $10, $20. If anyone on the call has any suggestions for where you can find really beautiful royalty-free images for people on the call, please share in the chat. I would love to know some more options for where I can find really great imagery. All right, so at this point, you've built a slide deck to support your presentation. You've selected layouts, customized text, added charts, images, other visuals to enhance it. Now you want to share the presentation. This gets back again to this question that Sakina asked about collaboration, which sometimes can be challenging, right? You might want to share the slide deck with your team to get their input, or you can make it available to everyone who will be in the audience. So I have a slide deck out right now. I ran a class on NFTs for BACP, and that slide deck is available on Google for anybody to take a look at, right? And so I've made it view only, accessible to the public. All right. So you can even embed the presentation on a web page. Did you know that? If you open a website, you can take the link and you can embed it on your website, and the presentation will be there for people to look at. It's just like having a slide share in LinkedIn, something like that. So to access these settings, you want to use the share icon just like you did from the Google Docs and Sheets that we talked about earlier, right? This is what it looks like. So you want to type a colleague's email address and decide what kind of access to give them, right? View, edit, comment. What would you like to do? What would you like to do? Or you can get the sharing link and you can add it to other files or documents. So what does that mean? So if you copy the link and you have a Google Doc open and ready, or you have a spreadsheet, if you have an agenda in your Google Doc, you can take the link and put it in your Google Doc and say, hey, here's our presentation. This is what we'll be presenting to the client next week. And you can also put it in your spreadsheet. On your spreadsheet, maybe you have Paul, who's assigned to the task of being presenter, and basically he opens a spreadsheet, he sees the link, he sees that he has a task to do, and you're giving him the link to the presentation, and you're saying, Paul, you're going to be the presenter. So these things all work together. All the links are active, and everything is very seamless and beautiful, and it makes you look and behave and feel professional, and that's what this is all about. All right. So I want to take a look at what we learned, and then I'm going to go back and look at the Q&A and answer questions. If people want me to go back to specific slides or take a look at different processes again, I'm happy to spend time doing that. So I really hope that you're slightly more comfortable with sheets and documents right now. You might have to do additional learning. There's actually a place you can go to get more additional learning. It's called Grow on Air. So if you type in Google Grow on Air, you'll find the link to get to all the different little videos that are presented about sheets, docs, and slides and more applications that Google creates. And you can get more in depth and you can get more than a one-on-one high-level view, which is what I'm trying to present. You can get very rich, complicated, more involved information about how to use these different applications. But what we talked about today was we opened a Google Drive if you didn't know how to do that. We created a to-do list from a template. We added task dates and owners to a sheet, and then we added formatting to your sheet, right? We did all that today. And it probably felt fast for some of you that have never done these things before, and maybe it was too slow for others. Trying to make everybody happy. So we also opened a Google Docs template for a meeting agenda and some notes. We saw how to change placeholder text, customize colors, we added comments, we figured out how to share projects in the cloud with Google Drive and the Google applications. We did all that today. And then we built a status update presentation using Google Slides, my favorite platform. You saw how a template can make your slide deck look polished. I love the word polished. I think that what I love about Google Slides is all the slide templates are beautifully polished because the Google designers have done a wonderful job making sure that things are beautiful and professional and colorful with big, bold type that everybody can read. Right? And we looked at how to customize layouts as well for your unique presentation. And I also showed you how you can find images on the web that are free using that tool on the sidebar of Google Slides. So these things can really help you get started with useful projects in your professional and personal lives, right? These are the type of basic skills that you need in order to be ready to jump into another company. If you know these basic fundamentals, you can pretty much cross-platform to other companies using other platforms. I mean, that's really how I like to look at it. How do you future-proof your career? How do you future-proof your professional life or your entrepreneurship journey? Learning these basic things help you become marketable across any platform in any company anywhere in the world. And this is basic information, right? All right. So, for example, some other apps are available with Google. You can build your resume with Google. Google has a lot of existing templates. All three of my sons have resumes. I had them building their resumes from when they were 10 years old. And it's really easy and simple. You might want to do a different type of budget in Sheets. I just created my first budget, post-pandemic budget. And boy, oh boy, talk about being broke. It's like, wow, I love Google Sheets for that. So there's other different apps that you might want to explore. I think I mentioned Forms, using Forms instead of SurveyMonkey. Google Sites is actually really amazing. You can create your own website for your business or share your work portfolio. As long as you have a Gmail account, you can get a free website if you have a Gmail account, a free website, right? You can use Google Meet for video conferences. You can meet people remotely. It's a really beautiful platform. It works really well and seamlessly integrates with all the different applications and the free applications that Google offers. Don't forget Calendar. Calendar helps you create appointments and book meetings, and there's all different types of third-party apps that integrate with Google Calendar. I love Google Calendar. My whole life is designed around a Google Calendar. I'm sure you've heard this phrase, if it's not on my calendar, we don't have a meeting. It doesn't exist. If it's not on my calendar, I will not be at the meeting. I will not show up. It's not on my calendar. It just never happens, right? Forms, again, surveys, feedback, all kinds of wonderful things. You can access all of these at google.com by clicking on the apps icon on the top right. And again, we've barely scratched the surface of all the features. I'm telling you, there's so many more things. If you go to the Google Play Store and you type in Google, you can find out all the different apps that are connected to Google that Google has created that Google's beta testing. And most of these apps, many of them, I should say, integrate with all the different applications, that we're talking about now. It's like you have a Gmail account and it's like all the doors start opening. Like, I'm trying to remember what movie I can come up with that talks about the man with the key opens the door and then all the other doors go ding, 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 ding. That's exactly what happens when you have a Gmail account, right? I mean, these things really do make a difference. They do make a difference. I would like to leave with one thing. All the topics we covered today, if you can write down one thing that you will do next, what would it be? Please share that in the chat because BACP would like to know what the outcome of this content was for you. And I'd like to know as well, to take back to Google to say, listen, 5 people on the chat, they had an action plan, and these are the 5 things that these 5 people said they were going to do. If you could please put that in chat, I would love it. I would love it if anybody could take a chance and do that. It would be so great for me. It's always helpful to know. A couple more quick things. There is actually an app called Primer, and if you go to the Google Play Store, you can download Primer. It's free, and you can sharpen your marketing skills with Primer. It's really like they have a series of really short, fun lessons. They're all about 5 minutes each, and they help you problem solve some things. And I love Primer. It was actually designed and developed by a woman at Google. And I mentioned this before, g.co/growonair. I think I mentioned it, but I didn't give you the link. So if you go here, you can get more digital skills to help you learn more about some of the content that I shared today, and actually learn about content that I didn't share today about Google products. And these are all free things. No, Primer's not a website; it's an app. So you want to go to the Google Play Store, and I'll go back to it. Go to the Google Play Store or your other app store, and you can download it there, and you can get the app. It's actually really fun. And if you're looking to start a new career, land a job, a competitively paid job, by the way, build your skills, you want to check out the Google Career Certificates. And I did share that document with BACP, so hopefully they will email that to all the attendees of the class today. It's a fantastic program. You can earn a certificate and prepare for a new career in a high growth field in under 6 months. You don't have to have a college degree for this. You can learn about IT support, project management, UX design, data analytics, and Android support. There was someone on the call that I had last week, or actually last month, who was in the middle of the project management certificate, and they were so amazed and excited about what they were learning, and they're going to come out with a certificate. And project managers right now are in super, super, super high demand. Project managers are in high demand. They get paid very, very, very well. So I think that's a future-proof job. There's not going to be a situation where a robot can take over project management, in my humble opinion. I just love these certificates. And if you have anyone that's 16 and up, they can go through the 6-month experience, and they can earn a certificate, and they can right away start applying for great jobs. And I also want to share a couple other resources. I'll put this in the chat as well. Please, Pamela, let me know if you can see this. These websites will give you more in-depth information about what I covered today. So you might want to copy and paste this. And here's a tip: if you copy and paste all the content in this chat, like just put your mouse, your finger, your cursor in here, select all, copy it, open up a Google Doc, paste this content into a Google Doc, you will have a record of everything that's in the chat. I don't know if you knew that you could do that, but you definitely can do it. It's really helpful. And then last but not least, I have the survey I'd love for you to take. And now, if you could please take the survey, that would be great. And now I would love to open the floor up, Geraldine, and figure out if anybody has questions, if somebody wants me to go back to a slide that I maybe bumbled or fumbled over a little bit. There's a process with my clicker. I have to click to go to the next image that shows up on the slide. So I think a couple of times I forgot to click, or I clicked too fast and I might have missed a slide. So I want to make sure that everybody's needs are met as much to the extent that I can. So please let me know how I can help at this point.
I'm just looking through the questions. First, someone did have a question. Yes, this webinar is recorded and will be posted at BACP's YouTube page. And I put that in the chat, and I'll do that one more time.
Okay. And I do want to recommend also that I typed in the chat I think that it's the Google on Air. It's the Google on Air link, which gives you even more in-depth strategies, insights, instructions, classes on the different Google tools, including, specifics on docs, sheets, things like that. I think there's actually a specific Google on Air 15-minute snippet just on sheets. That's all you'll do is learn sheets, and it goes more in depth on the different features that you can use in sheets. I did not go into deep dive into sheets. I just gave you the high level sort of, how to use a template. But there's so much more you can do on sheets. It's just pretty incredible. Are there any other questions? What questions does anybody have for me? They can be related to Google, it can be related to the 5-year anniversary.
Sure, there is a question. I'm not sure if you addressed this one. Can Google Sites connect with an existing site, for example, WordPress? I'd love to shift over to Google Sites.
So Google Sites is actually a Google product, and it's on the Google environment. My expectation, based on what I know about website building, because we used to do this at my agency, they are two completely different platforms and completely different programs. My expectation is the answer would be no to that. The only way that you could migrate your WordPress to Google Sites is to actually do a full migration, which means copying and pasting content into the Google Sites. The other thing about Google Sites is great for a beginner website. It is not a robust environment like a Shopify, for example, or a Squarespace, or any other sort of platform like that. So it's really good for a beginner experience, if that makes sense. I have a few sites I've built on Google Sites for clients that have had no budget to actually build their own website. And I was able to provide training to the clients to help them understand how they could build their own site using Google Sites. So it really depends on the goal you have with the type of website you're trying to create. It may be sufficient to have a Google site. It may be just right, or it may not be robust enough. So you really need to take a look at what the outcomes you're seeking on the website that you're building, right? What kind of actions are you looking for a person that's going to your website? Because that actually will determine the type of website you should build. Your WordPress website may not even be robust enough. I just really don't know. And I hope that answered your question. So yeah, I mean, I understand. I don't blame you for wanting to switch because Google Sites is free.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? We'll give it about another minute. It looks like you addressed most of them while you were presenting, so.
Oh, I see some people gave me their next steps.
They did. They definitely did.
All right, so wait, who did? We have one from Jennifer. She's going to create a free website. She's going to make a slide presentation with her work. Wow, I love that, with your work history. That's excellent. Let's see. Jamie is saying tutorials on Google Forms is next for you. Excellent. Let's see. Damika, I began using Google Docs for my business to help complete my business plan. It's phenomenal. I wish we could have started using a different Google document since the inception of the business. What does that mean? I wonder what you mean by that. That makes me curious. Okay, Jashid is going to use Google Docs to share progress on group projects. That's excellent. Share folders for documents. That's excellent. That's excellent too. Okay, so we have. All right, so then Jashid. Let me just see this. Jashid and who else? Damika. I gotta put this in here. Hold on. Damika, Jamie, and Jennifer Tamayo, right? All right, I'm putting this in the chat, Geraldine. Oh, Jennifer. Now I'm scared to pronounce your name, Jennifer, because you called me out that I said it perfectly. Now I am choking at the buzzer. I'm like choking at the 3-point line. I'm afraid to say your name now. Let's see. Okay, so then I'm just looking at these people that actually took the time to comment on what they wanted to do next. And I put this in the chat, Geraldine, for you. I'm going to actually send it to hosts and panelists only. So if you could reach out to these people, which I just named, I'm going to send them a free Google Home Mini because they gave me next steps. Okay, I put their names in there. So if you want to send them messages or how you want to communicate this to the people, I'm going to deliver a free Home Mini to those people directly from Google, by the way. So it's not coming from JinJa Birkenbeuel. It's going to come from Google. It's not going to come from Burt Creative or the Honest Field Guide or Journey of Gratitude. It's going to come directly from Google, a Google Home Mini. So I want to thank you so much. And let me just take a look one more time through the chat. Let's see here. There's
one last question. If I currently have a website, am I able to cancel it and create a new free website using the same website name as my current website information?
Oh, does this person mean, do you mean the URL you have or your domain name? You can use your domain name on Google Sites. However, you'll have to transfer your domain name to Google, which is a process, and you will have to pay to host your domain name on Google Sites, because the Google Sites is free, but you're not getting burtcreative.com on Google Sites. You're getting some other string of address on Google Sites because it's free. If you want to move your domain name, like I said, that's a different process, and that actually does require a spend for you to have your domain name transferred to Google. Did that answer your question? Please let me know in the chat, because if it didn't, I can get you a place with more information about that. But you definitely can migrate, but you'll have to pay to have your domain name hosted, and then make your Google Sites your domain name. It's a process, and I don't know exactly all the details of that process, but I know that it's not free. It's not free. There's no free domain names anywhere. I wish there were, but there are not. Was that helpful? Did that person say that their question was answered, or do they need more information? They can always email me. I think I lost you, Geraldine. That was
Yeah,
for
I'm
you.
here. Yes, I'm here.
Did he say yes? It answered, or did she or he or they say yes? That was helpful or answered it, or do I need to
They didn't say, but they're asking what your email is. If you could put it in the chat one more time.
put it in there one more time? Okay, I can do that.
And then I think that is all the questions.
Okay, and did you get the list of the people that I mentioned that would get a Google Home Mini, so that you can maybe reach out to them and have them send their address to me?
We
Because
will definitely be sending you the attendee list. So definitely.
oh, okay, so I'll go through it myself then. Okay, that's fine. So let me type my email in here, my Google email.
One quick question when you're typing: after migrating name, do we pay to maintain site?
Google Sites is free with your Gmail account. Google Sites is free. It comes with your Gmail. And actually, this is not a Google My Business Google. This is not a Google Business Profile class. But when you have a Google Business Profile, and you have Google Sites, you are in business, and it's free. Google, Gmail, Google Sites, all of it. It's just like you have everything you need without spending any money. The domain is a whole different conversation. That's a different process. So Timothy, thank you. Thank you, Jerry. That was a really good question, Jerry. And please email me for more information. I hope I answered the question properly and correctly.
Well, we're getting lots of thank yous. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you so much for coming to Digital Skills for Everyday Task. I'm so, oh, okay, you're right. I got to put it to everyone. Got it. Thank you, Jennifer. Hold on. I have different things happening here on the on the other side of the house. Let me just send it to everybody again here.
Perfect.
There we go.
Great. Everyone sees it.
Okay, good. Okay, so thank you so much for coming to Digital Skills for Everyday Tasks. I'm really looking forward to running some more classes with BACP. Once again, thank you so much, BACP, for this wonderful partnership. It's been 5 years, and stay tuned for my announcement of when I'm going to have an in-person event to celebrate the 5 years. Hopefully I'll have it early August. And I'm so grateful that all of you are here. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your feedback. I'm hoping it was helpful, and I'm so glad that it's being recorded, so you can take a look at more. And there are other coaches across the country. You can take a look at all their classes as well. And happy Friday, and have a great weekend. And thanks so much, Geraldine.
Thank you, JinJa, as always. Great information. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and have a great, safe, and happy weekend.